Hey everybody, welcome to What Drives Us, episode 193 for July 13th, 2016. My name is Russell Frost, and yes, this is the second week in a row I've forgotten the title card. So that's episode 193. Normally it's a big green logo thing, but instead you got to see me having fun doing what normally no one can see me do. You just can see the other guys doing it. And you know what, I'm filled with joy and happiness tonight because my long-lost co-host is back. So let's hear from him without me saying anything else, Mr. Danny Cooper.
Hey everybody, very nice to be back. I'm glad to be part of the show again and not be asleep on my daughter's floor right now, which is usually where I am about 9 o'clock at night.
On the floor?
Yeah. While they go to sleep, I lay on the floor, and usually it ends up me falling asleep on the floor.
Fatherhood.
Yeah.
Not that I know anything about it at all. Well, dude, it's nice to have you back.
I'm very glad to be back. I'm now a world traveler, and I'm ready to talk some Prius tonight.
Oh, man, are we going to talk some Prius? Believe me, it's going to get ugly. Their blood will be spilled. I can guarantee it. So before we get to the blood spilling, let's finish the introductions. Our main man in Canada, our man in the vault, Mr. Mark Coughlin.
Hello, everybody. Greetings from the Great White North, where we're sitting at 104 degrees Fahrenheit today. Unbelievable.
Do you want to thank me for that weather, or do you want to curse me?
Thanks for shipping up that weather. Yes, indeed.
Wow. That's horrible, dude. I'm so sorry.
It's like soup out there. It's unbelievable.
Every day.
But luckily, we usually only get it for like 3-4 days tops. And it goes away.
Yeah. All the power plants overload. All the air conditioners burn out. All the hardware stores run with fans, and then it's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wisconsin kind of does the same thing sometimes too. And speaking of Wisconsin, right next door, our man in Illinois, Mr. Tony Schaefer.
Wow, I was wondering where you were going with that. Yeah. Hey, everybody. So I want to give a shout out to Blue Blood Brewery. I don't know if you can see that on the label. Blue Blood. I am drinking an official 643 double play. It's a hopped up Pilsner. And so this came to me from Blue Blood, who it's actually brewed from a friend. And he was kind enough to give me a couple of 6-packs.
Wow. Free beer, dude.
Yeah. Okay, so I should say this is from Lincoln, Nebraska. It's available various places around the country. And this is the official beer of the Salt Dogs, Lincoln Salt Dogs, the minor league there in Lincoln, Nebraska. So I was kind enough to give him money. He was kind enough to give me beer.
Sounds like an equitable trade.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to say, sounds pretty much like what happens in millions of liquor stores around the United States.
Wait, he said it was special to me.
Oh, Tony, you're always special in my eyes.
Yeah.
Speaking of beers, I do want to share mine tonight. I've got a Sierra Nevada Summerfest, which many of you see Sierra Nevada and you think, oh, that's that cute brewery out of Chico, California. But no, this is from Mills River in the great state of North Carolina.
All right.
Another California institution co-opted.
What kind of bathrooms they have, but I hear that the brewery's very nice.
I'm sure it is.
Yeah, I'm sure it is.
I'm sure it is. Well, Mark and I are, as usual, doing this show sober because we can't imagine.
I've got a nice clear glass of water from an artesian well right here in Waterloo region.
Ooh.
All right.
And it's a vintage that has no label.
That makes it vintage.
And I'm drinking Diet Dr. Pepper as usual. If you're taking notes, and God knows you should have something
There's my
better to do with
pour.
your time. Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's got a good
Good
amber.
pour.
Well, what do you say we get this show on the road?
Alrighty.
Okay, there we go. An affirmation from at least one of the panel. Cooper, do you want me to intro this, or do you want to just talk? Do you want to start the story, or do you want me to start the story for you?
You start the story, and I'll pick up with it.
So, interestingly enough, Toyota, for reasons that I'm not aware of, but maybe Danny will make us aware of, Toyota, in their infinite wisdom, invited 8 America media personalities to Japan to drive the Prius Prime. This was, what, 3 weeks ago?
Yeah, it was the weekend of the 24th.
Okay, there we go. And Mr. Danny Cooper was one of those media personalities. He actually got to drive the Prius Prime before most other people have even really seen it in person. So anyway, Danny obviously wrote a thing. You saw it. The link on What Drives Us. We'll obviously talk about that more tonight. That link will appear at whatdrives.us. But he wrote a review of it for PriusChat.com. And so, Cooper, where do we start?
Where do we start?
Start on was it a 36-hour flight?
It was. I spent about 32 hours in a plane and spent about 48 hours on the ground in Japan. Never actually set foot in any part of Tokyo that was street level. What else? I had an amazing time. I mean, in spite of all that, it was an amazing time, mostly because I got to drive the latest car from Toyota that, spoiler alert, if you go read my review, I think it's the best Prius that they've ever made. And yes, that's me in a racing helmet right there.
Okay, I'm sorry. I had to go there first.
Toyota has us wear these cute racing helmets on the test track.
So what you're saying is you sacrificed yourself, your family, your body, your sanity to do this.
Yes,
Okay.
I took the hard road, and
Yes.
the path less traveled, if you will.
Toyota said these cars come with the latest Toyota safety sense and all the safety that we could possibly cram into a car. Here's your crash helmet.
Yeah. Now,
That's not expressing a lot of faith in the driver.
I would hate to go to a Toyota long lead press event in Japan, and you're driving around like a prototype and you're wearing a helmet the whole time. It would make for the in-car video reviews to be a little more goofy than they are today.
Yeah, I mean, unless you get like the Stig helmet thing or something, I guess you could.
Yes.
Work
Now, next time I would bring my own visor, and
Right. Yeah.
definitely.
Is he driving a car or a fighter jet? We don't know.
Yeah.
So anyway, the new Prius Prime, 22 miles of all-electric range, overall 600-mile range, including the gas and the electric. And actually, I think that's an important thing to touch upon that I didn't touch upon too much in my review. But in this generation, the gas tank in the plug-in and the gas tank in the standard hybrid is the same size. So in the first plug-in Prius, they had to make the gas tank smaller, which made your overall range smaller, which sucked. And so they've fixed that by putting components in different places and whatnot.
And that 600 miles is if you are driving like 600 miles in one trip. Because, of course, as Mark would tell you driving his Volt, you charge it more frequently, so you get 1,000 miles or 1,500 miles.
Yeah, and with 22 miles of range, I think we're going to see a lot higher tank numbers than we saw with the first gen. I think I had one tank of mine that was like a little over 1,000 miles on my plug-in Prius, the first one. But it was hard to do. 11 miles of range was pretty paltry.
Mm.
I still love the car in spite of it, and I think that the 22 miles is going to put the car's usability into a different stratosphere. And you've got your fanboys, if you will, that will look at the 22 miles and say, "Oh, that's not enough to be even considered in the electric car realm." But then these are the same people who love the idea of the Mitsubishi Outlander, Highlander, whatever the hell it's called, Outlander, I think, right?
Outlander.
The plug-in coming over, which is also only like 20-something miles. So it's interesting, like this hate for the Prius still exists out there in the electrified communities, which has been unfortunate to see, and I hope that this new Prime will kind of help fix that that kind of view that people have had of the Prius plug-in in the past. And Toyota in general hasn't, they haven't done much as far as electrification goes, and this is they're hoping for big numbers with this thing. I think the number I heard was like 40,000 units a year, which the first generation plug-in they did 43,000 units total.
60, I think.
43, I think.
No, I'm sorry. I mean, I thought 60 was the first year for Prime.
Oh, I thought I heard 40, but anyway,
I'm
let's
going to
be
look it up
conservative.
while you chat.
Even if we're being conservative when we say it's 40, it's still a significant number compared to the first generation.
Sure.
Especially in this climate.
And getting back to the total number of miles per tank, and I think one thing you pointed out that was important is it sounds like more people are actually going to experience 22 miles compared to the Prius plug-in owners who Russell inadvertently kicks it out of EV coming out of a driveway, coming out of a parking lot.
Do we have to mention that?
Yes, as a matter of fact, that is a great.
Yeah, I took a little artistic license in my review, Russell. Sorry about that.
Yeah, that's okay. I'm the Prius owner who knows about power mode. I still get crap from that.
Yeah.
But to your point, Tony, yeah, I mean, it's got 100% throttle availability in EV mode, which is it's going to make such a huge driving dynamic difference compared to the first-gen plug-in. The first-gen plug-in, you had to kind of feather the pedal to get it to stay in EV mode, which is completely ridiculous. And now, I did laps around this test track completely in EV mode while flooring it and I got it up to about 70 or so at one point when the Toyota people weren't looking.
Oops.
Yeah.
That's what nobody knows.
Worked. Is that what you're saying?
Well, it's a funny story. There were I think 4 primes that were there. I was in the very first one, and so they did 4 people in those, and then 4 people, 4 other cars. They had 2 fourth-gen Priuses, a Mirai, and a first-gen plug-in there. And the first lap that you do around the test track is like a check ride, and they send someone from TMC with you to like show you, where to turn, and they show you the speed limits and like where to slow down, Am I choppy? I apologize. They tell you, like slow down, and do you want me to reboot and I can come back and?
No. It's fine, man. Okay. Sorry, didn't mean to throw you off.
That's okay. That's all right.
Come on, has it been that long? You've been on the show. We talk in comments all the time.
I know. So the max that you were really supposed to go on the course was like 40 or so, which was kind of ridiculous.
Racetrack.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Race helmet.
Right. everything there screamed race.
Can I just tell you, I've had a bicycle at 40 miles an hour.
Except for the speed.
So I had my whole first lap blown by doing this check ride, and that was one of my 4 laps. And so I was like poking along, like a hypermiler for the first mile. And of course, the hypermiler that was with us was probably going even slower than the TMC people wanted me to.
Yeah.
Dare I even ask what his MPG during his check lap was?
I don't know. I don't know if anybody even checked any of that stuff. I didn't. It was a weird time because I didn't have time to like reset gauges or pay attention to really anything. I didn't get to play with any internal instrumentation. Not that it wasn't like available to us. It wasn't thinking about it. Didn't have the time.
I was thinking maybe that was the intention, that they're still finalizing things, and they're like, okay, so look over here, don't mess with that.
Right.
It seemed pretty final. I knew that the one I was in was one of the first prototypes, whereas the other three were more final than the one I was in. Just interior-wise, there were some refinements done that weren't done to mine. Like the back seat still had like just a where they had taken out the middle seat, had like just a plastic piece in its place, whereas in the final pre-production version, they've got it's like lined out with leather and stuff, so it's a little bit nicer.
Okay.
How did you find the seating inside the room? Was it comparable to the previous plug-in, or was it larger or smaller? Same?
Well, I think it's more fair to compare it to, I guess, the new Prius. It loses the fifth seat, the middle seat in the back row, which is kind of a down point for a lot of people, including myself, because I've got 3 kids now, and kind of makes it impossible to drive it on a regular basis for me. But they did a nice job. I don't know if you've seen the backseat of the Mirai, but the backseat of the Mirai is made more into like a executive cruiser, I guess is the best way to put it, the configuration in the back. Right. It's got like four chairs that are similar to the front seats, like more
like buckets.
Yeah, more bucket seaty, kind of like the first Volt, but anyway, the Prime has something similar where I think that they've extended the bolsters a little bit so that the seats are feel a little bit wider and have a little bit more cushion along the sides, and then they put in a nice little center cup holder thing. It's certainly it feels very roomy because you don't have the feeling that the middle seat is ever going to be occupied, so you can just like sit there like a boss, So, but anyway, it's a downer for a lot of people that they took out the fifth seat, and Sebastian Blanco from Auto Blog Green got a little scoop from the chief that it sounds like that they know that that's a big issue, at least for the U.S. market. I'm not sure what the Japanese market is like, but it sounds like they're working pretty hard to fix that for future plugin. Now, whether that means mid-cycle refresh on the plugin or whether that means next generation, not sure. But he is the chief for the next Prius as well, so he'd be the one to know if they were working on it or not. So.
I mentioned this in the Prius Owners group this morning because I saw Sebastian's article and I thought it was interesting. I just, having actually spent some time in the back seat of a Toyota, a 5-seat Toyota, with 2 other adults sharing that bench seat with me. Now, I'm by no means a small adult, but I'm by no means a giant either. I just want to tell you how uncomfortable 3 people in the back seat of those cars is. Yeah, you can put 3 people back there and they're seating and their seatbelts for them, but honestly, isn't it like 4.5 people in any of these cars? I mean, isn't calling it a 4-seater just more honest?
Yeah, and Tony's posting a picture of it.
Yeah, so I put it up just to share.
I
wouldn't disagree. I think the thing that bums people out more than anything is that like there's certain times, like at work, you can pile 5 people into a car to go to lunch real quick, or like in my case, getting 3 car seats across the back of a seat. Nicole and I make the joke all the time that the Odyssey should come with an option of just having these wood planks for seats in the back, because parents don't use them. We just need the anchors to slap the kids into, and so we don't really care about the size of the actual seats themselves.
I I don't want to make a big deal of it. I thought, because I hear this and I hear like you say, oh well, lots of people, and I wonder really how many people, like lots, like a majority, or like 10,000, which might be. Oh, by the way, that sales was 60,000. They're saying at least 30,000 are going to come from North America.
Okay.
For Prime, so
it's worldwide.
60,000 is a
60.
global number. Yes.
Yeah. As I've made the statement, many times that, I've had my Prius now for 12 years, and I could probably, if I tried really hard, I could count on like one hand the number of times I've had more than 2 people in my car.
Yeah. You don't know.
You guys are married. You guys are married guys with no kids, so
right.
So
But there's
you're not doing carpools for soccer and all that crap.
Right, but we know that there are a lot of people who buy Priuses and hybrids and EVs who are either young with no kids, single with no kids, or empty nesters who are now buying these hybrid vehicles. So it's not a niche. It's just there's a bunch of demographics out there.
I think just
but
what they
don't want to doom it to Ionville. Sorry, Mark.
I think that what Chevy did with the first generation having 4 seats, they seemed to pay a price for that, and they decided that the second generation was going to have a 5th seat. And let's be honest, it's not a 5th seat; it's a 4.5 seat. But that allows you to put a car seat in there. That allows you to have a small child or a regular-sized child for a soccer practice. A quick run from school. I think it's a step in the right direction, and I think Toyota should, obviously they're thinking about it. It's probably the right way to go, even if the seat is not completely functional. It's something that is I guess something that you can use occasionally, and it comes in handy.
Well, and let's face it, car seats are really only needed, A, when you're worried about getting caught, and B, in the case of an accident. And as long as you avoid those 2 things, you really need a car seat.
Spoken like the father of many children, Tony.
I'm gonna have my Nicole call you and.
Yeah.
Is that the lawyers on the phone, Russell?
Okay, so before, yeah, really, what was that? I'm sorry. Oh yeah. Okay, sorry, Tony, you're off the show. Before we go down the whole like multi-person seating, Americans want this rat hole, which is fine, it's cool. What I really want to know, and I don't know if you got a feel for it during your drive, is the thing that, and you talked about it in your story, and already alluded to it here, which is the Prius plug-in, for whatever its faults and strengths was, it was a horrible EV. It was a plug-in of certain utility, but it wasn't a great EV. So the question is this one a better EV? In other words, is it fun to drive? Because EVs are fun. So do you get that out of the Prime, or did you not get a vibe for that?
Well, it was a little bit difficult to get a vibe for that because it wasn't like a city street type of track. I mean, it wasn't like a go around in a circle kind of track, but it wasn't like a driving in Newport Beach kind of situation, where you get a better feel for how stuff is. What I can say is that I mentioned it in my story that the 0 to 40 times, which in my 4G Prius review I mentioned were vastly improved from the 3rd gen Prius, are even more improved upon in the Prime compared to the standard 4G Prius. So that was you can feel the difference, and the chief engineer showed us a graph showing us the kind of time of how long it takes to accelerate to 0 to 40, and there was in fact a significant difference on paper and in the driver's seat itself. The fact that that you have 100% throttle in EV mode and you're not kicking yourself out of EV mode if you dare to use the accelerator makes it much more of an EV driving experience than we've had in the past with the Prius. it's hard to explain, but like it feels more like my i3 than it feels like my plug-in did, as far as the driving experience goes. It's not as fast. I'm not saying it's fast, but it's like it's a similar EV driving experience
as your BMW,
as my BMW i3.
as your i3. Yeah. Okay, so I mean, you do get it does feel like you're driving an EV.
Yes, definitely. Okay. I mean, there's a lot of low-end torque available. They've increased the regen on the EV when you have it in EV mode, which it's not like Tesla-like or anything, but it's more than you have with a standard Prius. It's not even as hard as like if you're driving in B mode in a plug-in, when you can put it, if you're in plug-in in EV, you can put it in B mode, and it's basically just an aggressive regen instead of it engaging the engine to help brake it like it does in hybrid mode.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's similar to that as far as regen.
Okay.
So it's not very much fun to drive.
No, it's a bit boring.
Yeah.
I mean, look, do you remember when we were in Raleigh in 20... I mean, the first time I drove the iMeave and the Leaf and the Volt for the first time in those days. And I mean, one of the things that I liked about the Volt was that it felt like you were driving an EV. You liked that it didn't look like you were driving an EV. But I liked that it felt like I was driving an EV.
Well, and I look forward to hearing your thoughts on the 4G Prius, because I was really impressed with the driving dynamics on the 4G Prius. And like many of the reviews that I've been reading over the last few days from the people who are with me, everybody's pretty much saying that, yeah, the 4G Prius driving dynamics were vastly improved and are actually pretty good. The Prime's even better. And you couldn't say that for the first Prius plug-in. Remember, it felt like you were dragging ass because you had that heavy battery behind you, and it wasn't any fun to drive. This is the opposite. It uses that weight to its advantage.
So what about the some of these design elements? Did you get any insight on those things?
Well, I found out that a couple of them were actually things that they had hoped to put into the standard Prius. The dual wave rear window that everybody seems to really love seeing is that rear hatch that has a curved window to the back of it. That was apparently supposed to be something that was in the 4G Prius, and along with the carbon fiber hatch that's also in the Prius Prime, which I think that might be a first for Toyota for carbon fiber. But both of those things were supposed to be in the standard Prius, and they just couldn't do it because of production levels. Pretty much, they didn't have the facilities to create that much carbon fiber, and they didn't have the production down to a point where they could make the dual wave windows fast enough for the standard Prius production. As far as the front fascia and the rear goes, I really like the 4G Prius. A lot of people don't, and whatever, and it's an angle thing too. It's like, at this angle I really like the 4G Prius, at this angle I really don't. But the Prius Prime overall looks fantastic. I think from almost any angle you look at it. They've done a really nice job of putting in all LEDs on the exterior lights, which is really nice to see Toyota moving forward with some technology finally again in the Prius.
Finally,
yeah. So it's got some LED turn signals. All the fog lights are LEDs. So, and it's just gorgeous. There's a lot of thought that was put into the design.
I do like I'm just going to have to call them the Mirai headlights.
Yeah.
Is there an official term for those?
We'll call them Mirai headlights. Call them the unicorn headlights. How about that?
I do like them. That there's the four, right there, and they're thin, and they just shoot across. I think it's clean. I think it's a really good look.
Okay, Mr. Cooper,
yes,
will
sir.
Toyota hit its sales forecast?
No, not a chance.
And how? Why not?
Because they're only selling 8,000 Prius a month right now, and it's going down.
But won't. So you don't think that the novelty or the excitement or the newness of this one, the extra EV range, nobody cares?
No. Well, I mean, Mark, what's the new Volt doing? How's it selling?
It's doing about 2,000 a month.
In the U.S.?
Yeah.
And how does that compare to the first gen?
It's well, over last year it's a significant increase, but that's also because people were waiting for the second gen to come out.
Yeah.
So I think it's in the original car it hit the 2,000 mark a number of times, but it's hovering around that mark. So it looks like it's pretty consistent, 2,000 a month.
So let's say they try to hit 30,000 a year. I think they said they were going to try to hit 40, but let's just say they were going to try to do 30. That's what, 2,500 a month or so?
Yeah.
And I mean that's like 2.5 times what they're selling a Prius V right now. So I just don't. I see Prius. I see them maybe keeping Prius people in a Prius by bringing the Prime to market. I don't see them capturing other people who are looking at other alternate fuel vehicles. Like I think people will look at the Volt and say, "Oh, the Volt's got more range. I'll take that." So I don't think that they're gonna take from that end. I think they might keep some of their core, and they might persuade some people who came in looking at the regular Prius and they're like, "Oh, the Prime looks a hell of a lot better than the regular Prius. I'll take that. I don't care if plug-in, schmug-in, whatever." But it's also going to come down to pricing. I think this one's going to qualify for a $3,300 tax credit, and so if they can make it, they asked me what I thought the price should be, and I said $2,500. And I think if they could reach that, comparably equipped compared to the hybrid sibling, then it could do well.
Wait, back up. What did you say? They asked you how much they should sell it for?
How much extra they should charge for it over a...
Oh, got it. Okay, that was the thing.
A similarly equipped Prius, the Prime should sell for $2,500.
Sorry, I didn't.
Okay.
Didn't say all that. It's this talking.
It's the Summerfest.
Yes. So we're looking at a fully loaded Prius for touring. I think is 35,000. I think
they start at like 32.
Because I know that a fully loaded 4 non-touring with the PCP performance package and the advanced tech package is 33,400 something. So the touring is a little more than that. So we would be talking upper 30s, under 40.
Well,
is that a good?
You're talking actually about 36.
About 36, yeah.
If they take Danny's advice, if they can, I don't know.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah.
The original plug-in was priced rather badly.
Stupidly, I think would be the word.
I'm trying to be nice. And I don't know that Toyota won't pursue that same strategy, at least initially. You know what I mean? Like they'll have to cut off their nose before they figure out that their nose has been cut off.
Yeah, one thing that they are doing this time, which I think is smart, is they're not limiting themselves to 2 models. So there's going to be a full grade strategy. Whereas with the regular Prius, or the original Prius plug-in, we had a base and an advanced, so it was like 32 and 39.
Right.
I think it was going to cost.
Yeah.
But they're not doing that this time. I think it's going to be more closely paired to the grading strategy for the regular Prius. And it's going to be nationwide from day one, which is, they always promised that it would be for the plug-in and never quite reached that.
Never at all.
Yeah. So that will be interesting to see because they they put a hell of a lot of incentives on that car in some of those carb states where it wasn't selling well. Like I bought mine out of Massachusetts because they had like $9,000 off or something ridiculous. But see, there's no incentive for them to do that outside of states that have that follow carb regulations.
Right.
That's interesting, the multi-grade strategy. So, do you think is this the early mid-cycle refresh for the next Prius? Are they just going to make the other one go away and replace it with this? I mean, I'm surprised they're talking about actually doing full grades with that one. I mean, that's a lot of stuff.
Yeah, it's I wrote in my piece that it feels like after a short 9 months after the 4G Prius came out that we're already getting a mid-cycle refresh in the Prime. And we're getting all this extra stuff, a big battery in the back end to help us get 22 miles of EV range. Mm-hmm. Because it really feels like an evolution of the 4G design. And in talking to the chief, like I said, like there are things that made it into this car that didn't make it into the original or the standard hybrid. So it does feel like a mid-cycle refresh on some level. What's also going to be weird is if they usually do it 2 years after the generation starts, so 2018 I guess would be the standard Prius mid-cycle refresh to see what they do with that front and rear fascia, if they follow the Prime design logic or if they kind of go with their own evolution of the hybrid. And then do they do a mid-cycle refresh 1 year after coming out with the Prime to keep it in step with the regular Prius? Because I think we've heard some people say that they intended to come out with the Prime at the same time that they came out with the standard Prius, and they just weren't able to. So anyway, yeah, it'll be interesting to see what ends up happening.
I have a question about the battery and specifically, and I understand this was like the long lead, and maybe details were few and far between. But my big question would be for long trips. For example, when I drive down to my hometown, it's 375 miles door to door, approximately, depending on how I go. But almost entirely interstate and highway. That first 22 miles will be gone before I'm, even a quarter of the way past Chicago. But would I be able to regen more? I mean, how much battery would I be able to refill in hybrid mode? Does that make sense?
Yeah, theoretically, you can refill the whole battery. Theoretically.
Okay.
So there's no physical separation between the hybrid portion of the battery and the EV portion of the battery. It's all just software controlled.
Okay.
So if you were going down a hill for 30 miles, you might regen 10 or so miles. But and I was able to do that in the first plug-in. I was able to regen a couple miles onto the car going down a pretty steep grade. But what you could do in your situation, Tony, is you could put it into hybrid mode when you start out and save those miles for when you get off the interstate later and you're in more EV-friendly driving conditions.
Okay.
One thing that I really look forward to testing at the press long lead, which we didn't have a time to test in Japan, is a new mode called EV Auto, which defaults to EV, but it kicks in the gas engine when the software feels it's helpful. It's more efficient to use gas than it is electric. And so I don't know if that's going to drive more like the original Prius plug-in did, where we're Russell Frost and we step off, or we come onto the street and we we lose our EV mode.
2 in 1 show.
Or if it's they use the example of if you're in EV mode but you're going up a steep grade, the computer knows that you're using way too much battery for this to be efficient at all, and so it kicks in the gas to get you over the top.
Yeah. See, and then I think if more people understand that, the ability to selectively apply hybrid mode, EV mode, yeah, in my case, I would drive a little more than a mile in EV, switch over to hybrid, hop on the interstate, drive, and then, when I get off the interstate, I could kick back into EV. So, yeah, that kind of being able to selectively choose modes is very important to drivers.
Yeah, and I definitely get the feeling that they are listening to owners out there, or enthusiasts in general. Because you remember when we first drove the prototypes for the first gen plug-in, I don't think there was any choice at all for being able to use EV mode or hybrid mode. It was you just started off in EV mode, and I think that was a complaint that we had, and they fixed that in the production model, and then they've evolved that now into the second generation of this plug-in, where we've got not only EV and hybrid, but we also have this EV auto mode, which sounds promising.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. So you mentioned an upcoming media long lead. I mean, do you have details? Can you give details? And when?
I don't really have any exact dates. I've heard September. So hopefully I get an invitation. If you got invited to Japan, hopefully they invite me somewhere contiguous US.
So when are they looking at first hitting dealerships?
Fall is what I heard. So I don't know if that's as early as October or if that means like November.
Or December.
Or the wee part of December.
Yeah.
But they are starting with some consumer driving, I think, tomorrow? I guess. And,
very soon.
Yeah, at some festivals and whatnot. So I think there's one in Baltimore this weekend.
Yes, it's Baltimore this weekend. I know Navy Pier in Chicago at the end of July. I think it's the last weekend of July. I'm hoping to make it to that.
Yeah. One other interesting note is that they, for anybody who hasn't read my piece, they've put in a heat pump into the new Prime, which they had in the pre-production or the prototype plug-in, and then they got rid of it for the production plug-in, and now they put it back into the Prime, and it's supposed to be 30% more efficient at temperatures like at 10 degrees Fahrenheit. So I think that's going to help with the efficiency, because in the original Prius, if you turn on the heat, it had to kick on the engine to create the heat. So I will say that one thing I wish that they had put was some seat heaters in the back for those passengers in the rear. I think that would have been a good choice and a cheap choice that they could have made.
Who cares? They're in the back.
The people in the back care, Tony. Trust me.
The person riding in the middle with no seatbelt cares.
Right. Yes.
So, Mark, this is going to sound like a facetious question, and it is, sort of, but I'm also serious. I mean, so, like, is any of this tempting you to, like, go, you know what, I'm done with the Volt thing. I want a Toyota.
Not a chance.
Is it because you'd have to get a new logo for
I certainly wouldn't mind driving it just to see the comparison.
Right.
But you cannot compare 53 miles to 22.
And that was my next question, which is what's the fulcrum point here? Is it the range?
Well, the range is the number one, I would believe, in my case. I would want that 53, and like when I said, when I had one in LA, I could easily get 70 out of it.
Right.
So I got they're under promising and over delivering on mileage, and that is number one in my book.
Cooper, what do you think the one thing that's going to attract people to this thing is?
The fact that at the end of the day, it's a Prius. It is bulletproof technology at this point, and I think that means a lot to the normal consumer.
Sure.
There's people who like to live on the edge of technology, and I'm one of them. But we've all seen what's happened with like Leaf batteries, or in the early generation of that car. And so, Prius has a good reputation as far as longevity and reliability. So I think that is going to be something that brings in the casual customer.
So is this gonna? You kind of alluded to this earlier, but do you have any sense of, is this going to further broaden their base, or is this just going to maybe reinforce what might have been described as a possibly weakening base?
Yeah, I think of it like Jenga. You know, it's like like the tower was starting to crumble for Prius, and I think it still is. You know, it's in a much more precarious position than it was 3 years ago. But I think that this helps secure that base and keeps people in the family. I don't know how much it broadens that base. I hope it broadens that base because I think it's a fantastic car. You know, I think it's an amazing car, and so I hope that it broadens that base. But I think that at the very least, what it will do is it'll shore up the footings on that wobbly tower.
And I realize this flies in the face of 10 years of our shared experience with Toyota and with Prius. But do you see the Prius Prime as maybe the landing on the beachhead of what might be easily converted into the first Toyota EV?
I kind of get that
it's
feeling.
Still a Prius?
You know, I kind of get that feeling that it could be their continued foray into electrification.
Foray.
Mm-hmm. So if they do go EV, do you think they could have mileage up to, let's say, 40 miles?
They possibly could have an EV that goes up to 40 miles.
Yeah.
See, no, I'm thinking of something a little different. I'm thinking of taking that, what is it, the TNGA architecture, and saying, okay, now we're going to make the Prime a 200-mile EV.
Right.
Well, and if Toyota was listening to me, that's what they would do with the Prius nameplate is further it not only with hybrid technology but also with EV technology. I would drop the Prius V at this point. It's not selling well. Just drop it. Yeah. And I would make a Prius electric vehicle.
Wait, I have a question. Are you insinuating that they would have a Prius hybrid, a Prius plug-in, and a Prius EV? Now, if they add a Prius fuel cell, should they rebadge it Ionic?
I don't even. Are you drunk?
No, I mean, think about it. That is exactly what Hyundai did. It is exactly what they did. One nameplate, hybrid, plug-in, EV, same nameplate.
Yeah, no, I mean, I get that part. The fuel cell thing was where you went off the rails.
Oh, yeah, I know. I was just throwing that in for shits and giggles. Yeah.
Well, I mean, no, I agree with Cooper. I mean, I think Prius has spent millions, hundreds of millions, building the brand. Mm-hmm. And they've spent a long time, and they've got something that has a certain amount of value. Can they take that and maybe take back the lead? I don't know that they can take back the lead, but can they use that to sort of push a possibly full electrified car? I think they could. I just don't know that they will.
I think they easily could.
Yeah. Oh, I just think they're very, very dedicated to motors, to gas motors.
Well, they're good at it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I drove hundreds of miles in Japan while I was there, and the only electrified car that I ever saw there was the Prius PHV. I never saw any other electric car. And so I think that they think about their home market first, which obviously they should. I think they sold like 40,000 Prius last month or something ridiculous.
Yeah, it was huge
in America. But
that's crazy. Where is Japan getting all its oil from? You would think that they would be more interested in reducing their imports.
That's a good point.
And reducing tailpipe emissions. It's an island. It's not like pollution has anywhere to go.
I do think that Toyota probably has something up their sleeve that is being kept very under wraps. And I wouldn't be surprised if they surprise everybody else sometime in the next 2 years with some big project that they've been working on.
Do you think it's that one-seater where the front wheels lean when you go in the corners?
Yes, that is going to be their big 40-mile EV.
Right.
It's
It
going
would
to
be a
rock the
surprise.
world.
It definitely would be.
That would be a surprise if they unveil that at the Geneva Car Show and say, "Here it is."
Catch a lot of people off guard.
Here's the EV you've all been waiting for.
But
I mean,
it wouldn't surprise me if Toyota USA is actually pushing back on an idea of electrification. I mean,
Yeah.
trucks are selling hella well right now for them, and I mean the RAV4 hybrid is already quadrupling sales of the Prius V.
Mhm.
So if there was not already a Prius V in the works, I'm sure that Toyota USA is like, no, we don't want it.
Yeah, I'll tell you, the week I spent with the RAV4 hybrid, I can tell you that car puts the V to shame, in my opinion. It deserves every parasitic sale that it gets over the V. That is just a great car.
The short time that I drove it, I easily got 40 in it, and I've driven the Prius V a pretty significant amount, and I've always had to work to get 40 in it.
Yeah.
Interesting. I have to wonder if this is going to seem irrelevant, but it isn't. Have you canceled your Model 3 reservation?
I have not.
Are you gonna sell it? You gonna sell it to me?
Yeah, you have to think. I mean, you have to either they're just so bulletproof and resistant to what else is going on in the marketplace, so focused on their own stuff that they don't care. But you have to think that 500,000 Americans coughing up $1,000 to wait 2 or 3 years for an EV, you gotta think that somewhere that had an effect on them somehow, and they just went, "What are we doing wrong?"
Yeah, I don't disagree. You know what that car has though? 5 seats. That's why it would stay in the running for me.
The Model S.
Yeah, the Model
X,
S.
or the Model 3. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, there's no denying the fifth seat.
How did we talk an hour about this stupid car?
Cooper.
I'm sorry. It was mostly about my helmet. So.
Well, I was gonna say, I think it was nice not to post the Hello Kitty helmet pictures. I think that I appreciate your restraint, Mr. Cooper. I genuinely do.
So as you were driving around the track, did you find any Pokemon?
I was actually thinking that it would have been amazing if I had been in Japan while this stuff was going nuts.
Oh, I bet.
Because I'm sure as crazy as it is here, it's even nuttier over there.
Yeah. Hey, Nintendo finally figured out that kids like mobile devices. Wow. Who would have thunk it, huh?
Oh, here's a fun little story. So you see the Prius Prime shirt that I'm wearing?
I was going to say, I can
Nice.
see. Yeah.
So, yeah, total ass kiss move, by the way. But
You're good at that. Oh,
funny little story. I come down for breakfast at our hotel in Tokyo, and I'm wearing this the Prime shirt, and that guy from Toyota is wearing the Prime shirt, and that guy from Toyota is wearing the Prime shirt, and the third guy from Toyota is wearing the Prime shirt. And I look at them all, and I'm like, I can go change if you don't want me to look all like official and stuff today. So it was funny that I was like walking around looking like a Toyota employee all day.
I thought you were going to say you walked down to lunch and or breakfast, and somebody thought you were a Toyota and then walked you into the VIP room or something.
No, that would have been nice. But I will tell you what, if you're ever going through customs in Tokyo, just tell them you're there doing something for Toyota, because they just turn and they just stamp it and walk you through.
wow. I'll remember that. I like that.
Yeah.
I'm here to see Mr. Toyota. Yeah. Sure you are, sir. Sure you are. Why don't you go in this room and wait for a little while? We're going to need to go through your luggage extra carefully. I'm did you get anything? I guess, you know what, we'll spend a couple of minutes on this and then just call it a night, because obviously we're not going to get to any other news. But did you hear anything from anybody else that you thought was interesting? Any sort of epiphanies that other drivers may have had? Or right or wrong, and I'm just as interested in something that somebody said that was spectacularly dumb.
To be honest, you sit there with these people who they basically test drive cars for a living in beautiful parts of the world all the time. And like I'm sitting there with Kim Reynolds, who's the guy who wrote the Apple Car thing for Motor Trend. And boy, that's a great story I'll tell you about sometime. Had a few beers and got some interesting information out of him on that. But anyway, you're sitting there with these people and you hear them, that they've driven this car and that car and, these amazing performance vehicles. And then you sit down and you read their reviews of a Prius and you read them talk about like how great it handles and the driving dynamics and all these positive things about those aspects of it that you would have never expected them to because of everything else that they're driving on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm.
But then you also hear what they own, like what their daily driver is, and it's never anything very interesting. It's like, oh, you've got a 93 Civic, or it's always stuff like that. It's never anything super awesome, like a 68 Porsche or anything like that.
Right.
You
A
know, they don't-
Bugatti
they don't-
Veyron.
Yeah, they don't let you keep the cars that you test drive?
Apparently, that's not a thing.
Here's the thing. If you're test driving a new car every week, why do you need to own something special?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I can go out and thrash a Veyron on Bugatti's time. I'll drive a Civic, okay?
Mhm.
I'm good with that.
To and from the airport, that's pretty much all they're doing, right?
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
But yeah, the amount of positive feedback that they were giving, and they weren't giving it in the presence of the chief, so it wasn't all just BS. They were just telling me that their impressions, and they all seem to have pretty positive impressions of this whole fourth gen platform in total, and I think that's a well due positive thing to hear.
Yeah, good.
Hmm.
So did
Interesting.
he give you cool swag?
I got 0.
What?
Yeah, sure.
32 hours in a plane? You got nothing?
United gave me some swag,
You want some napkins and a stirrer stick for your coffee?
and I
Tyvek pillow.
grabbed
They
a.
took back your shirt at the airport?
No, I brought the shirt all the way from the U.S.
Oh, okay. I thought you got it there. Okay.
No. So yeah, even there's a picture of these blue hats, which are these like totally very Japan blue hats, and they had them all sitting there for us when we came into the technical presentation, and so we carried them with us out to the test drive, and I was like, oh, cool, I get to take this home. That'll be neat. It's like not a cool hat at all. Here's the hat. It's like not a very cool hat. I'm like, oh, that's something. And yeah, at the end, they took them back. Like, okay.
Why?
What are they do? You know what? They just wanted a DNA sample.
There it is.
Okay,
Yeah.
they're cloning you. Okay. In fact, how do we really know it's you?
Well, I shared a great photo with Russell last week, and it was of I don't think I have it downloaded, but they had to put security tape over our phones and my laptop over the cameras because they do not mess around with security. It was pretty nuts.
So he has official Toyota. We're blocking this device tape on his camera over his camera lens. And, both sides.
What did you take a picture of the tape with?
I took a picture of it when I got back on the bus with my DSLR.
Okay, all right.
Interesting.
Let me see if I can find it.
So Cooper, what's the takeaway here? What's the final word? Are you back? Is this? Well, let's see. I guess let's just pretend that in 2 years your i3 lease is up, and Tesla, Elon's called and said, Danny, I need the rest of that money now. And maybe Toyoshima-san has giving you your. There it is. Present that bad boy. There we go. Look at that.
Information security.
That is not messing around.
That is a great picture.
We weren't even allowed to remove that tape. They had to remove it after they rechecked the serial numbers with our names and all this other stuff.
Damn.
So anyway, Russell, Elon's calling.
Elon's calling, says he's ready for the rest of the Model 3 money. Let's say, like I said, Toyoshima-san's come through, and you've got 2.5 humans sitting in the back seat. Are you thinking about a Prime, or are you still thinking about... I guess what I'm wondering is, do you feel yourself swung back over into the Prius camp at all?
You know, it's funny. I got back in my BMW when I got back to the airport, and I immediately missed being in a Prius, which is kind of weird to get in a BMW and miss being in a Prius. But it's true, and so I'll actually have pretty good experience over the next 2 years with the BMW, because it's only a 4-seater as well. But really, when all of us are going somewhere right now, or when all 3 kids are going somewhere right now, it's going to be all 5 of us going somewhere. There's not a lot of scenarios where I'm going to be driving all 3 kids by myself. So that's why the Prime is still a definite contender for me. It's not completely out of the race because we have the van which performs those duties. You know, if I was, and this is the case for a lot of people, you know, where the Prime would be their primary vehicle, and if it can't fit all their children, then there's no point in even looking at it. But I'm lucky to not have that situation.
Yeah, I mean, I'm the youngest of 6 kids, so 8 people needed to go to church every Sunday. We took 2 cars. I mean, literally, we took 2 cars.
Yeah.
That
Well,
was
that
what we
or
did.
stack them like cordwood in the trunk. I mean, come on.
Yeah, I mean, it did have the back. We did have a station wagon with the backward-facing seats. That was a lot of fun. But, you know, it was always a fight over who got to go home with Dad and who got to go home with Mom, because Mom liked to talk. But the point is, when the whole family needed to go somewhere, it wasn't a question over where's the 8-seater. It was a question of, are you in Dad's car or Mom's car? That was it.
Right. But, I mean, I talked about this a few months ago in that, American families are getting smaller. They're shrinking a little bit, which isn't to say there aren't lots of 5-person families.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Cooper is one of them, and there's lots of them. I'm not denying. I wonder what the actual real numbers are of 5-person families. How many 5-person families are looking, how many are there versus 2-children families?
It was enough, like Mark said, for them to put another half seat in the Volt. So,
yeah,
because I truly believe that must have been, Chevy must have had some research that told them this generation we need to do a 5th seat, or we're going to be stuck in the same position that we were in the first generation.
The interesting irony of this is, I think a lot of that was to compete with Prius back then. Now the situation's flipped, and Volt is the 5-passenger vehicle, and Prius is the 4-passenger. Prius Prime is the 4-passenger vehicle, and it's like, oh no, we're worried about, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know. Is it almost that Volt called, the Volt called Prius's bluff, I guess, and so they went all in, and then Toyota backpedaled and went with 4 seats.
I mean, there's another parallel here between the 2 cars. Look at Chevy's experiment with Stormtrooper White. And who wants to put cash right now on the table that says that's going to be the color of the plastic in the next time Toyota gets to change that? Toyota's going to offer that. Anybody want to bet that?
Well, what do you mean? I mean, they've got it in the 4G Prius, the 16.
They have it in the 4G and they have it in the Prime, but will they have it in the next version of either one?
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, they're already backpedaling on it some in the Prime.
Right.
The back.
If they realized their mistake.
Yeah, they put black in the back. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because that white, I mean, I like it, but I can see why it's polarizing.
Yeah, the white is not a popular option.
I think it's okay. It's fine, but I get like why people hate it. I don't know why people complain about other aspects of the Prius design. I get when you get sparkly white plastic in there in the middle of like gray and black or beige and black, and you go, "What the hell?"
Yeah.
I mean, it's visually jarring.
First and foremost, if Toyota wants to fix something with the 4G Prius, they need to make the sun visor extendable.
I've been talking.
I
People
swear,
have been
I
complaining about
think.
that for 13 years.
My God, I think the visor actually got smaller in the 4G Prius. Yes, no joke. Yeah.
It's just the windshield got bigger, Tony.
No, it's the side window. The side window. I drive south every morning and north every evening. The sun is always to my right, and I don't have the seat within 12 inches of the steering wheel to be covered by the visor, because that's where you would need to be covered by that 3x5 inch note card that they call a visor.
So have you resorted to the cardboard fix yet?
I do on occasions. Even in my 2004, I have little pieces of paper I keep, and when the sun is right there, I shove it up and extend. Yeah, no joke.
So we sell
Cardboard
these.
and plastic can do wonders.
Yes.
We sell these full window-sized heat shield sunshades on the Prius Chat Shop, and like they cover the entire window, and they're like metallic on the outside and they're white on the inside. You don't know how many emails I've gotten over the years of, "Can I drive with this installed?"
2 words, not legally.
Yeah. I've actually come up with the idea, and I've thought of, well, how can we do this? But almost like make a band that basically goes where the visor is along the top of the window, that is opaque, and you could almost have like advertisement.
Danny, I just had a business idea. Why don't we introduce window tinting technology to Northern Illinois?
They have that?
I mean, could we just tint driver's side windows? Is that something that's possible?
That'll be our new business. We'll just go up there and we'll just tint one window.
Yeah. $30, boom.
Yeah.
Done.
Or you could always go with sun visor mitts.
Yeah.
They slide right over, and then you pull them off just about half, and it increases it by 50%.
Yeah, like a sun visor Merkin or something.
Yeah, I've seen those add-on sun visor extender things that strap on, and they look like shit.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks for the explicit tag this week, Tony. Thank you.
Yeah.
I had to go there, didn't you?
Yeah.
Over the sun visor.
Oh yeah. I think that's a show title, folks. I got to write that down. Anyway, Mark, I feel like we ripped you off. We haven't talked about anything but Prius for the last hour and 13 minutes.
No, that's fine. It's very interesting to hear about it. It's something that I was interested to hear what the viewpoints were, and it'd be interesting to see how it does in the marketplace.
Do you feel like you need to like be a follower of a different car company that maybe with an office in Asia? I mean, like a glamorous trip to Detroit probably isn't that glamorous.
Well, at least it's not a 32-hour flight.
Boom, win. Big win. Okay, still an international trip, not 32 hours on a plane.
Exactly.
It could be.
More like 45 minutes.
Yeah, I have actually circled that airport for a little while, now that I think about it. Yeah.
It could be 32 hours, Mark. You ever flown Delta?
Yeah. Exactly. Delta
Waterloo to Detroit via Atlanta.
Oh, Lord. Delta and Detroit, that's a bad combo. I've been there. I think I ended up in D.C. and I was going to San Francisco. Literally. Okay? And that was the quick option out of Detroit.
Well, thanks for having me back on my own show. I appreciate it.
That might be the most pathetic thing anyone said on this show in a year or two.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for having me back on my own show. Well, you know what, Danny? You need to come on once in a while and say hi, just so that the viewers can remember your face. And just out of curiosity, are you drinking out of a milk can?
It's my hydro
Oh my
flask.
Holy
God.
moly!
What is that?
It's a pony keg.
It's
How did you find a pony keg? Yeah.
It's a 64-ounce vacuum insulated thermos.
Jeez.
It's fantastic for beer for tailgating, and
bet.
I use it for water the rest of the year.
You carry a half gallon of water in a stainless steel flask.
Yes.
Don't get me wrong, I'm impressed.
It stays cold for like 3 days.
And that doesn't have a car company logo on it.
No, can you believe it? It's just
Yeah,
like
you
a
actually
little-
bought that. That's what I'm
Oh.
tripping on.
Yeah.
Wow.
Considering
Okay.
I can see a water jug over his shoulder.
I think I have to send a clip
There's
of
a couple
this
Prius ones over there.
to the people at Hydro Flask and see if I can't get one of those for free. Wow.
I'm gonna tell Toyota to have these be the swag for the long lead. So I'll come back with one with Prime across it.
You know, I'd settle for a business class plane reservation.
That was the only way that trip was bearable.
Oh, dude, I can't even imagine it was very bearable then. But yeah.
What was
sure.
horrible was looking like my seat faced backwards, whatever the hell you call that in a plane, aft, and I was like looking at the people in the economy premium, and those people look so depressed. I didn't know what the people in economy looked like.
I can't even. 16 hours of looking at your feet, right? 'Cause you had a lay down. That's like a lay down seat, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, dude,
Wow.
I can't even imagine. Did you get any sleep?
Surprisingly, yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
Not
that's
bad.
good. Yeah, because I can't even imagine. Well, let's do our shoutouts and go home. The viewers, I'm sure, are fascinated about traveling to Japan, but
That's a separate show.
that's
What
a separate
flies
show.
us?
Hey, Cooper, just because you're here, for nostalgia's sake, do a shout out.
Well, I'd like to do a shout out for myself, if you don't mind. I run a little site called Prius Chat. It's right there. It's where I wrote a lovely review on the Prius Prime. Please go check it out. I'd appreciate it. You can go to priuschat.com/prime review, and that'll take you directly to the review. If you're listening live, it won't work right now because I just came up with the idea to do it, so I have to go in and actually do the redirect.
Just typing it in.
So
Also-
slowly.
Yeah.
Also, feel free to check out the Prius Chat shop that helps keep us open, keep my children fed and bathed and diapered. And believe me, with no diapers in this house, it would get pretty hairy pretty fast. So we'd appreciate you shopping at the Prius Chat shop. Thanks for having me back on. I really miss doing the show. Hopefully one day when I'm not going to sleep at 9 o'clock at night, I can come back and do the show more frequently.
I'm going to send a thank you card to Nicole.
Please do.
Mm-hmm.
Just because.
She's really having a rough night catching up on her DVR stuff that she never gets to watch.
Oh. Well, good for her.
Yeah, she's
Mr.
enjoying the night off.
Mr. Coughlin, would you like to say something horrible and inflammatory about Toyota?
Not at all.
Oh, okay.
He's Canadian.
Yeah.
Too nice.
Yeah.
Well, what I would like to say is that we were announced today in Ontario the different charge points that they've added to Ontario. 500 charge points are going to be added by March of 2017.
Wow.
It's quite an ambitious program, and as you can see, you can't turn around without bumping into a charge point here in Ontario.
That is awesome. Way to go.
So
Nice.
that's where our tax dollars are being spent.
And how's the? I can't remember the name of the furniture store. We thanked them last week.
Teppermans.
At Teppermans. How's the new charging station at Teppermans is doing?
The charging station is up and running. I've tried it, and there's going to be a grand opening ceremony ribbon cutting thing on the 28th, which we will go to and post some pictures.
Awesome.
Wonderful.
Yay.
So those are all municipal charging points?
Yeah, those ones are provincial charging points. It's public, private, government sponsorship together. and there's a whole, like, they'll be at McDonald's and of course up here at Tim Hortons and
Timbits.
many other establishments are housing the actual units, and 200 of them will be level 3s, and about 250 some will be level 2s.
Nice.
Yeah.
Welcome to the communist nation that is Canada. That's so beautiful. That's so beautiful. And speaking of beautiful, take it away, Tony.
Oh, you're so sweet. Well, I want to make sure and remind everyone, as though we don't remind you all the time, about our Facebook page, and that is at facebook.com/whatdrivesus. We do read the comments, the reviews, and everything like that. I want to give some shout-outs here, of course. To, of course, Philip, who sends us a lot of messages and posts some links. Philip, thanks, and Austin and Lee. I specifically want to give a shout-out to Deepti K, because I would mispronounce your last name, sorry. Deepti K recently liked our Facebook page, and we really appreciate that. And a group called iPlugin, who recently joined in. So we always enjoy seeing our regulars, but we really enjoy seeing new people come into the fold, because it means that somehow organically or otherwise people are hearing about us and either just taking the time to give us a like or actually interacting with us. And so welcome aboard. We hope you're enjoying the show, and just thanks again. Also, I want to give one more thing. Don't forget that we do have our new Flipboard magazine. So if you use Flipboard, do a search for What Drives Us, and you should find our magazine. It's a list of the articles that we talk about on the show, as well as articles that we just didn't get to. And sometimes we just stumble upon something in the middle of the week and decide to throw it up on Flipboard. So if you want to read what we're reading, keep up on the news that we're keeping up on, go to Flipboard and go to Facebook. You'll see what we're seeing.
Before I get into my little rant, also on the What Drives Us Facebook page, it's facebook.com/whatdrivesus. Shout out to Eric Torstensen and Kelly Darby Gilbert. Thanks, guys, for being active on the page. And of course, everybody else, all the usuals. You know who I mean. You know who you are, which is really the most chicken shit way of saying thank you to anyone. You know who you are.
Yeah.
And I'm too lazy to name you all by name, but that's okay. So, speaking to people we're going to name by name, as always, our thanks to Michael Mannering for the theme music. Visit him at manthing.com. You, of course, can visit us at whatdrives.us to download or stream the show in video or audio format. You can also get the news links there. Yeah. It's pretty important. Whatdrives.us, and of course we're available on your favorite podcasting application, whether that's Stitcher or Slacker or iTunes or something else. I don't know. Maybe we're on Pandora. I have no idea. No, we're not on Pandora, but maybe we might.
Oh, we're in the Google Play.
Google Play
Should be on Google
Thank
Play.
you.
And I think we're on Pokemon Go.
Pokemon Go. Look for us hiding behind the fire hydrant. That's where you'll find What Drives Us Pokemon.
Gotta get them all.
That's it. Or they'll take over the world. Wow. As always, my thanks to my co-host, Danny Cooper, for coming on the show. It really feels stupid to say that.
It sounds stupid, and I apologize. It's my fault.
Yeah. Yeah. And Danny, I'm just going to tell you, I thought your screen froze. You took such a long pull from that half-gallon barrel of water. I thought your screen froze, and no, you were actually still drinking. You really need to hydrate, man.
He's really making use of that container.
Wow.
You know what I've learned is when I'm not working outside, I have to drink slowly from it, because otherwise it'll just all go down the front of me. When I'm working outside, it's not a big deal. I can just... But
there's a real mystery to how Danny has had the time to father 3 children, because he's that sexy, wet guy working outside.
Yes.
That's who he is. And of course, as always, thanks to all our listeners. Download us next week and find out what drives us. Everybody wave bye-bye. See ya next week.